Something that we found really, really useful for maximising the amount of learning that happens is making use of the language of experimenting. So, in the early days of Makita, which is my organisation, we worked with another organisation where there was this big rift between two teams. We'll call them admin and HR. So team admin wanted a significant change in how they measured success. Team HR really feared that change, and they'd been arguing about this for over a year in total stasis. Nothing had changed. Now, all I had to do in the workshop was reframe that way the change was presented as an experiment, right? So rather than we need to do this, I asked, well, hang on a sec, would you be willing to at least try this out and see what the impact is? That was literally all I did. And I didn't actually realise how much of an impact it would have, but it felt much, much safer for those who were afraid of the change, because people knew in an experiment you can come back and reflect to see if it's going wrong. It's not like a life sentence, it's a process. It's this short-term thing. It's change as a verb, change as a doing, and not a done. So an experiment is this opportunity to try something and see how it goes. So it's fundamentally a learning experience. And importantly, failure in an experiment is not final. It's part of that process. It's a discovery that makes people much more receptive to doing things differently in a way that they're learning. So you can use this at a team level or on an individual level. So whether that's like a wider process change or supporting a colleague to just try a different way of doing things. But when you're doing this, it's not quite enough to say, let's experiment. You actually need a genuine mechanism for learning. We found a really useful way of doing this is to ask, what will we notice if this is going well? And what will we notice if this is going badly? So let's say you're asking your team to do more rapid debriefs after significant patient incidents, okay? If those debriefs are going badly, you'll notice that everyone's too busy because they're always doing these debriefs, nothing's being learned, and so you know that, okay, this isn't going very well. If it is going well, you might notice improved practices as a result of the learning, you might notice better teamwork. So either way, you can respond accordingly. Now, of course, the reality is always a bit more complex and tends to sit in the middle. Usually with experiments, it's a bit of this and a bit of that. But what's great about experimenting is it's not a question of absolute success and failure. It's about adapting and adjusting as you go. So in this rapid debrief example, it might mean that if it's not quite working, you might drop all of these rapid debriefs for one deeper daily debrief. It might mean that you expand debriefs to more positive incidents too. If it's going really well, you think, okay, great, let's make use of this more often. The point I'm making is simply this. The experimental lens encourages curiosity and improvement, and that is at the heart of healthy teams. So have a think about how you might frame that kind of experimental lens with your team, maybe for you personally, experimenting with different ways of being at work, maybe with a specific set of colleagues. There's lots of spaces where you could play that out and think about what you'd notice if it's going well, what you'd notice if it's going badly, and how you might adjust accordingly.